Ho ho!
Hello.
Hello, Dan. I am live. Hopefully, not
Doing
blatant
the
and
pixelated robot
that's it. That's what I do.
while the world burns.
Oh yeah, it is really pixelated. So I can see the stream. That's not so good. Oh well. Well, that's all I got. That's what we got to do. So
Thanks to Uncle Sam listening in to this.
that's right. I blame Putin. So yo. Wow, okie dokie.
Okay.
Episode 37. This should be the podcast. It's Tuesday night. Do you know where your kids are? No, I don't.
I know where mine are in there.
Yeah, mine are asleep. They're in the other room. Yeah, they're good to go. How's your week been going?
Fine. Busy.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on. Just, spinning the plates, balancing the pies, whatever.
A lot of fingers in the plates. What? No,
Yeah. Irons in the pie or pies in the fire. I don't know.
It's irons in the garage. No, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, same here. Not much, nothing out of the usual, but
I find myself like I am happier when I'm off like doing a band trip or like something. We went to Avi's gymnastics meet, like not cluing into like the internet and all of the stuff that's going on. Like I find myself happier, and then I like get back to like the grind of like where I'm working on stuff, and I'm like, all right, I gotta be, in tune with what's going on, and then of course being in tune with what's going on means that I'm just hearing about all the horrible things that are going on, and so then I start to spiral into a rabbit hole of like, what they're doing is and I'm like, so would I rather be informed or happy?
that is a tightrope I walk as well. I think I'd rather be informed, but this helps me be happy about it. Have something to scream into a microphone every now and again, as opposed to bottling it all up in a mind fuck of rage and just like dwelling on it. You know what I mean? I don't know if this helps or not for you.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with the answer to this because it's like that's exactly what they want. They want people to
not be informed.
They want people to get so frustrated. Like they're happy if people like us get frustrated with our mental state by being informed, so we tune out and focus on hobbies and art and family and stuff, and then we're not doing anything about it. We're not complaining. We're the type of people like we're so tired of arguing, and people, you know what I mean? Like that's what they want.
Yeah.
They want us to be apathetic, so that they can cruise along, putting us in the handbasket to hell with no obstructions.
Yeah, that's legit. That's I think exactly what's going on. So here you go, Dan. You're fighting back. This is your not so silent resistance.
Your video quality got a lot better all of a sudden.
Oh, good. I didn't do anything. So hooray for the internet that's kicking in. But like, yeah, and like I wouldn't begrudge anybody who doesn't want to be necessarily up to date on every nitty gritty detail and what's going on, for their own sanity's sake. Like that's completely fair, and I don't feel bad about that if people make that decision. Just also, don't vote or don't get involved. Actually, don't vote anyway. But just stay out of the fray if you want to stay out of the fray.
Yeah, I don't know if I can follow you along to the don't vote thing, but I appreciate the sentiment.
All right, either way. But you sent a video that I didn't. Ooh, good lord! I'm like Axl Rose over here.
So,
stupid microphone.
Omicron. So
talk to me, man. Talk to me.
Okay, so I've spent a lot of hours recently in this garage, reorganizing stuff, throwing away a bunch of old crap, and sorting through all my cables and stuff. So naturally, I just put on podcasts and listen to stuff, and all of these smart and articulate people explaining. However, it's one thing to just be people be like it's terrible, but to have very smart and informed people they can say it in 5,000 words and articulate all the various ways that things are terrible. So that, for a person with my brain type, sends me into these spirals. But specifically, I was listening to Brett and Heather Weinstein earlier, and they were going off. Brett specifically was going off on this thing. Two seemingly unrelated things, but like when they go together, it's a big deal. So the first was like, he said like the reason he couldn't vote for Obama in his second term, which was a big deal because I mean these people are they're lifelong Democrats, lefties, definitely not conservative or right wing.
Yeah.
But he was like, I can't vote for Barack Obama in 2012 because what they did was let me see if I can find it here.
Yeah, 2012. That feels like a lifetime ago. I was just doing the math on that.
Yeah, it's coming up on 10 years. It's exactly 10
that's
years.
crazy.
Oh, I lost it. It's the something. Terrorism. I had the link here somewhere. Crap. Anyway, basically, like, oh, here it is. Infinite detention, the endless worldwide. Okay, so the 2012 National Defense Authorization Act.
Yeah, the NDA.
December
right.
31st, 2011. He signed it in.
Wow.
Just getting it in under the radar. And it basically codifying indefinite military detention without charge or trial into law for the first time in American history.
Yep.
They would authorize the president and all future presidents to order the military to pick up and indefinitely imprison people captured anywhere in the world far from any battlefield, including U.S. citizens. So it's like, and then when they did it, of course, he's like, well, we're not going to do that in my administration. So, they don't have anything to worry about. And he expressed that he didn't like it. And he still signed it in anyway. So that's strange. So that's like kind of an extension. And the way they defended it was they were like, well, technically we can already do this anyway. Patriot Act and all this kind of stuff. I mean, the CIA has been operating with impunity for 60 years.
Right.
Waging illegal wars, not always necessarily horrible wars, but the fact that they're not official declaration of wars and we're just willy-nilly interfering with the sovereignty of other countries all over the place. So it's like, okay, they can do that. So at any point, and it's all under the guise of anti-terror, right? Terror.
Yep.
So most people will be like, all right, well, shoot. I'm not doing anything that they're going to classify as terror. It's like me worrying about getting audited, right? Like, I don't cheat on my taxes. I try to do everything to the letter of the law, but like, but I got a lot of 1099s, I got a lot of under the table income that like, maybe if somebody went through and audited me, they might find something that an expense that didn't quite count or whatever. But I don't worry about that because like I make what I make and the IRS is not going to pay somebody all these thousands of man hours to audit me when there's all kinds of billionaires and drug dealers and Wall Street guys that they could spend time on. Right. So I think that's the opinion most people take about terrorism. They're like, I'm sitting here in my little suburban area of America, taking my kids to school. I couldn't even, if I wanted to find a terrorist, I wouldn't be able to find one, right? So most people don't worry about it because they're like, I'm not doing anything. Okay, well, fast forward 10 years, and you got February 7, 2022. They got this terrorism advisory system bulletin, and it goes into
the federal government, U.S. federal government.
Yeah, this is DHS.gov,
okay.
And they're like, where is it? Under the Biden-Harris administration, prioritizing combating all forms of terrorism and targeted violence, establishing a new domestic terrorism branch, blah 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 blah, all this kind of stuff, but specifically. Enhanced collaboration, increased nation cybersecurity through the department's Cybersecurity and Information Security Agency. Okay, so if you go over to the Cybersecurity and Information Security Agency website, they got a whole section on all this kind of. There's election security, all this kind of stuff, national risk management, infrastructure, a lot of stuff that you might be like, all right, well, this is pretty reasonable. Infrastructure security, making sure we don't get hacked in our utilities and stuff. Some of the stuff seems pretty reasonable, right? Then there's a whole section here on called MDM, mis-dis malinformation. And this is where it gets weird because it's like, okay,
I just
wait a
found
minute.
this thing you're reading, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Keep going.
So basically it's like this links to this, links to this, links to this.
Yeah.
And if you pull one string, there's no real reason. Like a Rube Goldberg of tyranny and gradual human rights erosions. Right. So, the little ball goes down the thing and it knocks over a little bird that kind of goes like this and pecks a straw that falls over. So, and then before you know it, people like you and me are going to prison indefinitely without charge.
Yeah.
So there's three categories, because basically what they want to do is they want to lump into the category of terrorism, domestic terror. I mean, they already did this, like a month and a half ago, right? Where they're like the school board members that were complaining at the school board meetings or treating them as, domestic terrorism. I mean, that's literally the language they used.
That is the language. Yep. Or
So,
like January 6th, everybody there is a domestic terrorist.
insurrection.
Yeah, but if or even just people that were at the rally or like speaking at the rally are now, insurrectionists, which is terror. But either way, keep going.
Right. I guess somebody along the line figured out a way that, like, all right, well, if we just have like the FBI, and they're just like, they're law enforcement, and so we're going after criminals. Most people don't have a problem with that, except for the fact that, the FBI is still subject to people's rights. When the FBI arrests somebody,
theoretically, yes.
Presumably, I mean, the DEA
presumably
is a whole other ball game,
yeah,
right? But
yeah,
presumably, the FBI arrests somebody, they still have to Mirandize them.
Correct. Yes.
Right? They have to prove that there is a crime been committed. Right? So they're like, well, how do we get rid of these people we don't like? Ooh, well, how about this? Everybody hates terror. So if we just say these people aren't just criminals, but they're actual terrorists.
Yep.
The terrorists don't have rights.
No, they don't.
Apparently.
No,
So,
they don't.
even if they're U.S. citizens. So if all we have to do is just make the umbrella under which terrorism falls, just make that umbrella huge. Now, anybody we don't like can fall under it. So anyway, there are these three categories: misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. And they're kind of like in progressive order of nefariousness. So misinformation is like somebody who just makes a mistake. Right. So under this Brown, I mean, Fauci should be in jail.
Right.
Because that's basically saying anything that is not correct, but you're not intending to deceive anyone.
Yeah. So on the website, right? Misinformation is false, but not created or shared with the intent of causing harm.
Right. So that's the George Costanza. It's not a lie if you believe it.
Remember, Jerry, it's not a lie if you believe it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's a really good point. Fauci's a terrorist.
Yeah. By this definition.
Yeah. But
although technically he said a lot of things that he knew were false to begin with. But
that might be the next one, right?
Fauci has done all three of these things. So
well, yeah, because like if you are on the one side of to science and then the science changes, can you retroactively be charged for misinformation? Is that terrorism in the past? Because you were sharing false information in the past?
Right.
That's now, yeah, I don't know. Sorry. That's
good question.
Obvious question, I think.
Well, normally the principle of free speech would make all of these a moot point.
Well,
but
sure.
since free speech doesn't technically exist anymore, then now we're dangerous waters here. So okay. So misinformation is just like you said something that was incorrect, but you weren't trying. So what does that do? Is that like level 1? Like it puts you on a watch list or something like that?
Right.
So then there's disinformation, which is incorrect information that is intended to deceive. Right. So if misinformation was like a bunch of conservatives like saying a bunch of stuff that didn't fit the narrative, right? Disinformation is what they think that like all the Russian bots did, right? Where they would make stuff up,
with intent
to destroy. Like I'm no fan of Hillary Clinton. She's got a lot of skeletons in the closet. But disinformation would be like
waka waka.
If you were like Russian bot farms, spreading. He's like Hillary Clinton had all these people killed, and then they take a grain of suspicion there and they turn into all this stuff and like just to spread chaos, right? So, that's what that is. And so basically, anytime somebody says something that they don't like, first they label it as misinformation, and then if they really don't like it, they label it as disinformation. But then the most nefarious one to me is the third category, malinformation, which is basically true. It's true statements that lack context, right?
Ah, wow. Yeah. Malinformation is based on fact, but used out of context to mislead, harm, or manipulate.
Right. So who decides what the context is? They do.
Well,
of course.
obviously, editors of newspapers. Come
Right.
on.
Or PolitiFact, which is basically
PolitiFact.
a part, a subsidiary of Facebook.
That's so
Right.
crazy because like you can take almost not every headline. You can take millions of headlines a year that will give you a fact, but they will use it in a misleading way. Like
Yeah.
it's called clickbait. Like that's literally what they do.
I mean,
Wow.
Brett Weinstein, he used the example of like, this would make all advertising terrorism. He's like, I don't like advertisers to begin with, but they're not terrorists. It's like,
Right.
These paper towels are the best value for your money, compared to all the other leading brands. It's like, well, was that information? You know what I mean? And it's like, well, if that's true, then I guess maybe it's okay. But if it's true information intended to deceive or manipulate, then it's malinformation. It's just like, where does this end?
Wow, that's funny. It's like the I don't remember this. I don't even know this. I don't eat here. I just remember this food thing came out forever ago. Like KFC came out with some like mashed potato bowl thing with chicken, and like it was the first time it came out, and they called it the famous chicken bowl. I was like, it can't be famous if it's just being created. I was like, that's such a lie. But
How about Chick-fil-A claiming that they invented the chicken sandwich?
Is that like one of those Wright brothers things, North Carolina, Ohio fights?
I don't know. I mean, look,
I don't know.
I am generally most of the time always on Team Chick-fil-A. I think they're a fantastic organization that just purely based on their efficiency and the way that they just break all of the traditional tropes of fast food quality. Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they could. I mean, nobody. Maybe, was there like a patent for the chicken sandwich? I don't know.
Yeah, I have no
I thought that
idea.
was a dumb statement. But we accept that. That's advertising.
It might just be a yeah, exactly. Yes, I agree.
Like if I like on my website, for Airtight IT Solutions, if I just said like the Triangle's leading IT support provider, like who defines what's leading? I mean, we offer the best of anything. So basically, all advertising is legal. What happened to you? Are you gone? Oh, they got him. The government got him.
Are you there? Sorry.
I thought you got abducted. See, this is what we're talking about here. Okay.
Yeah.
There's no habeas corpus anymore, right? So
this is getting dark.
Right. So they flew a Black Hawk over from Cherry Point right down to your house.
I am over the flight path, man. They're buzzing me. They're buzzing me hard. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Probably still can't see me, but as long as you can hear me.
No, I can see you fine. Sorry. Sometimes I feel like Mel Gibson in like the first, the opening credits of Conspiracy Theory, where like it's like a montage of like him as a cab driver just ranting to all these people, and he's like, the favorite part of that movie is when he's like, there's a close up of him talking. He's like, who controls everything? It's the Vatican, and they're the ones with the money and the corruption. And it pans back, and there's like a bunch of nuns in the back of the cab, like this. And we're like,
I should watch that movie again.
Yeah.
Probably has more relevance nowadays.
Oh, it's
not really.
It's great.
Okay. So yeah. So what?
So 1 plus 1 equals 100, essentially, because I don't see how, what happens when you combine these two things? We've already established that the government can apparently it's legal. If the government thinks you're a terrorist, they can hold you without trial.
They can
indefinitely, or just make you disappear. So, and then if they can define anybody as a terrorist, then technically it's legal.
Yeah, I mean, according to the government, it is.
Like, I mean, there's no checks and balances on this, right? Like, even as like, if say you don't like the FBI, you think the DEA is a bureaucracy that's horrible, right? At least those things, there are criminal courts, like there's warrants. Supposedly, I mean, those things can all be abused, right? But at least there's some sort of process. There's oversight.
Well,
but this has nothing.
Yeah, no. The scariest thing is that it's lumped into the umbrella of national defense and the fight against terrorism and all that stuff. So, it's no joke that like in the NDA, like Obama did go after journalists. I think a few journalists are actually jailed. He literally did.
You stick the IRS on them.
Yeah, but he literally drone bombed American citizens overseas without trial because they just said they were terrorists. They're affiliated with Al Qaeda, so therefore,
is that the one where it was like a C-130, and
I don't know.
They thought it was Al Qaeda, and these people like they went in there and they just like just like this whole building. They're like, oh, good job, guys. And they got back, and it turns out it was like a Doctors Without Borders headquarters or something. They just murdered like 15 people.
No, it was a dude who's an American. I think he actually was a defector. He had his teenage kid there with him, and so I don't know if he actually defected or not, but either way, it was a drone strike that killed the terrorist, the American guy who's still an American citizen, and his son, who I think was 17 at the time, or 16 or 17. So I forget the guy's name though. I'd have to look it up. But no, right, same thing. Yeah. So you can go after journalists if you're under the guise of terrorism. You can drone bomb American citizens.
Well, it's even easier now.
Oh, now it's even easier. Yeah. But now it's, right. So now you have these flimsy ass freaking things that anything that you can use these buzzwords that if you incited, or just what they're claiming to be incitement of violence or incitement of terrorism under these three umbrellas.
Right. They impeached Trump over inciting an insurrection.
Right.
Right. And it apparently they were able to do that despite the fact that he told people peaceably
don't do that.
peacefully protest. Right. And they still they just ignored that part of the statement. I mean, it's baffling to me.
It's not baffling because it's just, I mean, you know what it is. It's just, it's a tool to bludgeon your political enemies with. That's the only thing it's there for.
Yeah.
And it's there to silence people and to control people who are in opposition to your agenda or your program or your policies. And that's what they're going to use it for, man. So it's a nifty little tool in the belt to silence anything you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
I think
so. There's a whole the American trucker convoy is about to start.
I've heard rumblings about this.
Yeah. So
what's their goal? Are they going to go to like DC? Do they have
I think that's the plan. I heard, and this could be incorrect, so maybe I heard they were planning to time it so that they would get to DC around the same time as the State of the Union,
which is what, in like a week or two, right?
It's coming up. Yeah.
So,
and then of course the federal, they're like, we need to prepare. And so they're going to, have their jackboots all over the place.
There is no way they would let Truck 5 roll into DC.
Right. If they do, I can guarantee you they're going to have people. As soon as there's going to be infiltrate, there's going to be provocateurs, agent provocateurs in that group. So, some, DEA or some sort of paid off government stooge is going to sneak into the crowd and sneak in there, hop on top of a big rig and lob a brick at something, and be like, and then the other people would be like, oh, they're throwing bricks now. Oh, shoot them. It's just,
and he had a Nazi flag. He was draped in a Nazi flag doing it.
Yeah.
He had a Hitler poster behind him.
I mean, it's basically what they wanted to do in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And amazingly failed at it.
I had somebody ask me that they're like, what's going on in Canada? I'm hearing it's like some sort of like insurgents or something like that.
Isn't that crazy?
Like, it's a bunch of guys in trucks
parked,
hanging out. There's bouncy houses. They're grilling.
There's food trucks. What I mean? Yeah, it's a block party.
Yeah.
They're all listening to Rush and Bob Seger.
Yeah. Bob Seger's Canadian?
No, it just seems like a good trucker.
Yeah.
Vibe.
What would Canadian trucker music be? It'd probably be Rush. Shania. Isn't Bryan Adams Canadian?
Yeah, Bryan Adams is Canadian. Yeah.
Yeah. I could listen to a mixtape of those three.
Oh, yikes. I'm gonna leave that alone.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, because I've read just like you just see people like screenshot or people on Twitter arguing back and forth about this stuff, and like the Canadians are like, good, yeah, the white supremacist people that are trying to overthrow the government are finally getting their comeuppance. They're like, why? What are you talking about? Canadian white supremacists? This is not even a.
And they're they're saying they're anti-vaxxed even though they're 90% vaccinated.
Yeah, they're like one of the highest rated percentages. Yeah, it's crazy talk. So, yeah, that's exactly what it'll be cast as, of course. but like a lot of people aren't buying that stuff though. And I get that you're probably talking to somebody who's not really informed and really what's going on, but like you hear the buzz about like people that are occupying Ottawa. And you're like, occupying? It's literally just sitting there. Like you can get in and out. It's not even they're not even really blocking.
Yeah, they ended the bridge thing.
Yeah, dude, they are going after people who are serving them like they're shutting down coffee shops and restaurants
I saw that
were
clip.
serving them. Isn't that crazy?
There was somebody, yes, they found out this one place, we probably saw the same clip. They found out they served the truckers coffee.
Yeah.
And so they went after him.
That's
they're
fucking
like,
nuts.
And you can see the video and they're like, they're coming through the windows. It's just like, geez, man. First they came for our coffee and I did nothing. Then they came for our bagels.
That's what I want to do. I want to stand in solidarity with my Canadian brethren and just eat French fries smothered in gravy and cheese curds. That sounds right.
With a trucker hat on.
With the trucker hat on. Oh, dude, I'm gonna do that. I gotta figure out a way. Yeah, that's so that would be super interesting if they end up doing that here. I don't think it would have the same impact or force.
This could just be my mood today, but I feel like it's going to end up worse because
for those involved.
Yeah,
because for sure.
The Canadian thing, Canadians are not necessarily known for their violence and their civil unrest like America is. So I don't think the American government's going to take any chances with these people. They're not going to let them get to the Capitol.
I don't think they'd let them get there either. And if they did get there, they would be treated like they were treating January 6th people.
Yeah, they would roll in with tanks.
Yeah, they would get that treatment eventually. Like they would be in jail for the rest of their lives probably in solitary
because they're pissed
confinement.
that they didn't get to violently, not obviously violently. I'm going to say they.
Well,
but like
really,
January 6th in many ways happened because of some sort of weird lapse in security that we'd all agree was really ridiculous. Like what who's in charge over there that a bunch of yahoos got into the seat of government? I mean, that's ridiculous. They're not making that mistake again.
No, they will not. Yeah. But even then, they're not going to let trucks just roll in and clog the streets of DC or get anywhere near the Capitol for sure, or the White House or any of that stuff. Not that there's that many streets that can get into DC. Like the major thoroughfares are
Interstate 95 is already a parking lot anyway. God.
Yeah, like 95, like 60 or 66 or 50 or something like. There's only a couple main roads that'll get in there, but and with the thing with Canada though, like it's such a smaller population and it's right down on there. Like how many truckers are going to really roll into DC? I mean, I guess like literally it could be way more. There could be such a mass of trucks there.
I don't know. I mean,
I haven't heard about it really going down. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen like actual videos of the convoy, which I think you'd have to be starting now if you're trying to amass all these trucks from across the country to get.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know. I mean, it's a potential conceptual thing, but I mean, America is more divided than Canada is, as I'd say as a general rule, right? When we tend to be more protest and riot happy than they are. Right. So, and Trudeau is, I don't know. I'm not a Canadian, so I couldn't say. I would bet $5 that Trudeau is more popular with the average Canadian than Joe Biden is with the average American. Right.
That's probably true.
Sure. I mean, that's damning with faint praise, right? Because I mean, I don't.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's polite opposition, but yeah. There weren't too many.
You could easily find enough people to fill a huge convoy that are like, oh, we're going to march on Washington to express our displeasure with all of this stuff. Sign me up. I mean, there's millions of people who would do that.
Okay, I think you're right on that. Yeah, for sure. But would they? And what would they accomplish? Like, what's their main gripe? What are they going to do?
Well, that's a good question because Canada was the one trying to put in the vaccine mandate, and the mandate push has been less successful here.
Well, yeah, I mean it's effectively dead right now on the federal government level, except for like
things are gradually opening up.
Workers.
Things are gradually sort of getting back to normal. So, yeah. Although Raleigh Durham still has a freaking indoor mask mandate in place. It's ridiculous.
That's just crazy talk.
You're walking into a store that's filled with no people, and there's a sign like people they just still have the signs up. It's just baffling to me. Like and. You go to drop my kids off at school, and these Chapel Hill teachers are like, "Make sure everybody's got your mask." And now you look at it, you see like 5-year-olds socially distant on a playground, sitting in little like 6 feet from each other, eating their little peanut butter sandwiches.
Oh, that's sad.
What the hell is this?
So this one little convoy, I say little, is supposed to go from the West Coast all the way to the Beltway.
To the New York Highway.
Yeah, like coming together around March 5th. So these people should already be on the road if they're doing it, because it's supposed to start it's supposed to start on the 23rd.
That's
Ooh,
tomorrow.
let's see if it starts. Let's see if it starts tomorrow.
Can we get a ticker up on here? Countdown to the convo.
Yeah, it's like the death.
Countdown to the convo. Sorry, that was loud.
That's okay. I wish I had a hat or a shirt. I'm dressing up like a trucker next week. It's really not that hard, actually. I
I got a hat around here somewhere. I should go grab it.
I have a trucker hat. I got a flannel shirt. I got some glasses. I don't have any. I do have aviators. I can pull that off. We'll be good. I won't shave or shower for 3 days.
I guess one other thing that makes me sort of irritated, bordering on furious, is that like we just like it would be one thing if this was kind of unprecedented. Like, we've never seen this many people frustrated with the government before. Yeah, this brings up a lot of interesting questions about, protesting and what is the proper way, the proper channels to change things. No, literally 12 months, 18, 24 months ago, we had thousands of people in the street. And if you dared say, hey, maybe we probably shouldn't burn down that Wendy's. They heard that as you saying protests
I hate
should
black
be
people.
stopped.
And I hate black people.
And it was just like, what? Like,
was
I remember
stupid.
everybody that I knew who I respected and liked being like, well, yeah, there's nothing more American than peacefully protesting for something that, that's how so much has been accomplished. So it's like, and all the reasonable people were like, look, we're not saying don't protest. And we're not saying there's not maybe a problem here that deserves to be discussed, but you don't have to destroy shit.
Yeah, even overall, for the amount of people that were out in the streets doing any type of protesting, most of those people weren't violent. But even in freaking Raleigh, there was freaking blocks of streets that were destroyed.
Yeah.
Not destroyed, but like storefronts trashed and all that shit.
Yeah.
Zero things to do with Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and all that stuff.
I remember being really proud of Durham, because Durham was like one of the only major cities in the Southeast that like there was all these protests and nobody broke anything. Like, I was like, thanks. Okay, this makes me feel good to live here.
But so it was one thing to say, most of the people who were out there were peaceful, and that's true. But a decent percentage of the protest turned at least violent in the way of property destruction.
I would say
that's just a thing.
It depends. You can get weird with numbers here, right? Most of the protests, most of the protestors were peaceful.
Yes.
Right.
As just the number of human beings
that's a true statement. Correct. Right.
Yes.
But it only, say you got 200 people and 10 of those are like, we're going to break some shit. Like 10 people could do a lot of damage, especially if police aren't doing anything. Right.
They can.
So most of the protesters were peaceful, and I respect their opinion, but most of the protests had at least some people that were violent. Like, something like what happened in Durham, where there was no destruction of property. That was kind of the outlier. For a major
or like
city.
the 14 people that were in Carteret County on Arundel Street. There was no violence, but I did not anticipate that. I didn't anticipate violence. Excuse me.
I thought that we as a country had a discussion about like the role of protest and how like, sometimes even if people go too far, or in your opinion about the methods, it still indicates that there's a grievance there that it would behoove us as mature people to investigate. What would make people so mad that they think they'd have to destroy things, right? So, and was it Chris Cuomo who said that protest has to be peaceful? We talked about that last week, and it's just like, did everybody forget about that in 18 months?
Yes. No, of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. No, it's just it's a political hot potato. You get it just tosses around, man, and you get to bludgeon people over the head with the rhetoric you want to use, man. It was also a little frustrating. So like, just on the flip side of that, people were just like, yeah, you remember when they were shutting down highways and like people were like walking on the highway and getting run over by cars, and like people on the right were like, don't get in the middle of the highway if you don't want to get run over by a car. And there's like, okay, well now you're supporting truckers block highways in Ottawa. You're like, all right, that's a fair criticism, I guess. But I mean, but that doesn't mean that. I think the argument was not that you shouldn't block the highway, but if you're going to have a protest there and block a road. Don't just stand in the middle of a highway in the middle of the night and get run over by a car.
And
like, that's stupid.
Right. And the discussion about whether you should block public thoroughfares, publicly used areas, that's a good conversation. I mean,
that is a good conversation.
I'm sure I would be pissed if I was, I get pissed enough driving anyway.
Just with traffic in general. Yes.
And if there's a convoy, I'd be like, oh, God, I gotta be.
Yeah, no. But again, but that's
so
the
I
point
get that. But the thing is, it's like, if that's the worst thing they're doing, have a conversation about that. If in fact it's wrong to block a highway, then let's talk about that. Why do you have to make up crap? It's the same problem I had with people who criticize Trump. I'm like, Trump has so many problems with him as a person and as a president and whatever. It's like, why do we need to make things up about him? Just talk about the things he's actually doing, and we can have conversations like adults. But as soon as you start making stuff up, then you're validating all your other criticism. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And like, with a protest or with demonstrations. If there is slight or even marginal aggravation on the local populace, that is a quote unquote bad thing. But that's the point of civil disobedience and civil protest. It's
at least they went to the Capitol.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There you go. But like the thing is,
what was the point of taking over Portland?
Yeah, or in Raleigh or in anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or not that they took over Raleigh, but smashing it up and stuff. So
yeah.
What was I going to say? Just in general. Yeah. Like, so if you see somebody if you saw like the Black Lives Matter protest, if none of those turned like, if they didn't take over portions of Seattle or Portland, was that in Portland? It was in Portland. Yeah. No, it was Seattle. They took over the block.
Chaz was in
Seattle.
And Portland, they took over like the federal building or something.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. So like, instead of torching buildings and taking over street blocks and violently assault, and like, don't forget, and like, not even that, violently assaulting people who are like in their property trying to protect it, like old ladies, old people, young people. I mean, like, people were just beaten in the streets for being on their property.
Yeah.
Take all that aside. If they had just been peaceful and all that stuff, you could hate everything they say and you could disagree with everything they say. And you can also then go, well, you know what? They have that right to do this. That's what part of being an American is. That's part of free speech. That's part of the freedom of assembly. It's First Amendment. You have to acknowledge that. But once it starts getting crazy and violent and scary, I mean, you start breaking people's shit down, man, then you've kind of lost the plot. And then on the other side, like that, when it is a peaceful protest, when they are then start making stuff up, like they're violent insurrectionists. Well, they're truck drivers. Yeah. They're sitting there.
It's like
it's a complete mind fuck on purpose.
Correct. And like, I like to think
psyops.
That there's enough space with the nuance to be like, okay, if I was protesting and then there was those rebel rousers in the group that were breaking stuff, I'd be pissed at them.
Yeah, for sure. You should.
But it's like, I at least from the outside looking in, it didn't feel like it felt like there wasn't that distinction, right? So that annoyed me. And maybe there was. I don't know. I'd probably be fair. But it's kind of like there's that old saying, like when you're in an argument, like you never want to be the first person to yell. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I think it's like Bill Burr has like a whole rant on it. And it's like the way if you're in an argument. It's like if they're right, they argue the point and the evidence and the point and the counterpoint. Totally respect it, playing the game fair, right? Yep. But when the person knows they're wrong, they go rogue, and because they know they can't win on the points, so their whole point is to just make you mad, so that you say something mean, and then now that's the start of a new argument where you're being angry. And it's like, and then by the time you realize you've already lost, you're like, oh crap, you've already lost ground. So. By the time your protest starts to turn into property destruction and assault and violence, that's a problem.
Yeah, even if there were a bunch of people trying to stop that, I mean, it was just unruly and it couldn't happen.
And here's the thing: people know that invalidates a protest because they're trying to invalidate the current protest by claiming that it's violent,
right?
As a way of
exactly. And actually, ironically, I think out of the very, very few handful of instances where there was like shoving matches or any violence or any ugly displays of anything.
What that like a classic Canada joke.
Yeah.
Like, Canadian writing is shoving.
Yeah. But I think the people around him like kicked those people out of there. They said, no, get the hell out of here. Like they shut it down. Those protesters. So again, I mean,
it's like Canadian Roadhouse. No, you're out.
Hey, buddy, you gotta go here. Gotta bump your chest. Get out of here with that faux American Canadian rock Bryan Adams bullshit. Yeah, it's infuriating. Was it misinformation or malinformation? Which information are we talking? This is malinformation. These are facts, but are used out of context to mislead, harm, or manipulate.
I would say that most of this falls under disinformation. It's incorrect facts.
You think so?
Well, I mean, they're trying to. Well, I guess there's examples of all three of these.
Yeah, sure,
right. But
I think the one I just had in my head was Mal, but that's okay. Yeah,
well, a lot of this stuff is like, you know, the whole part where they're trying to, like, it's a bunch of, you know, racist, misogynist, you know, white supremacists or something.
Right.
And like that's like there's no evidence of any of that.
Well, see, what's just hilarious to me is that either one of these, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, 99.9% of anything that comes out of public officials' mouths, especially on the federal level,
is at least
those three.
One or more of those.
One or more, if not all three. Well, it can't be all three, but you can't have the last two. But yeah, see, the law of non-contradiction. That's just one.
I mean, Jen Psaki could be brought up in The Hague. For the I mean, think about
her and her entire family need to go to jail.
Like the amount of stuff that she says. I mean, and I guess Biden, I guess you could probably just file him under misinformation because it's believable that he just doesn't know what the hell he's saying as he's saying it.
That's a fair point. Yes. Well, I mean, and to be fair, any White House press secretary is a complete liar. So
it's their job.
That's their job. It's literally the description. Or can you spin this in like 8 million ways other than the way we're not supposed to spin it? Like, yes, I can. I am an awful person. Could you imagine?
Although
being just to be a friend, a family member, a spouse of one of these people, and you're watching it, and you're just like, I don't know this person at all. How can I trust everything they ever say? It's like they're at Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
They're like, this turkey's great. I'm like, you're lying, son of a bitch. I know you don't like my casserole at all. Just funny to me.
Yeah.
But
you didn't Aunt Susie made the casserole. You didn't say that you like. First of all, I just wanted to say that we've always supported Aunt Susie, and how you think she's a great addition to this family. Okay. Second of all, I would like to think that we've been on record as being a strong supporter of casseroles for many years. Okay. And we support diversity in all casseroles. There's broccoli casserole, there's tuna casserole. And then by the time you've talked for 5 minutes, you never actually said whether or not Susie's casserole was good or not.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't like Trump, but I did like Kayleigh McEnany.
That was the last one, right?
I think she was the last one. It seemed like she had a head on her shoulders and she was
not the first blonde girl, the other blonde girl.
Yeah.
Because the first one is like, I don't know, was she an advisor?
Sanders? Was that Huckabee Sanders? No.
Oh yeah, that was Huckabee Sanders. The other chick was an advisor. Kellyanne Conway.
Yeah, I wasn't really.
She wasn't a White House spokesperson, was he?
I can't keep them all straight.
I think she was just
way too many people. It's like trying to keep track of a show that you've watched like one episode per season of. You know,
she was just like she was a counselor. Yeah, no, that's right. It was Mike Huckabee's daughter. Was the first one.
But I liked Kayleigh McEnany because
handsome woman.
She was articulate.
Handsome woman. No, that girl was articulate, and actually, she generally brought the receipts. Man, she could recall news stories and articles and quotes from like the people in the room, like without even looking at notes. She was a beast in that regard. So I enjoyed her for her calling out the bullshit of the media, even though she was a mouthpiece bullshit person of the media. But
yeah,
that's just how it goes.
She should go rogue.
She should have her own podcast.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Crazy, man. And then like the just the stuff that happened in Canada, like with it now being those temporary measures have been voted into place by their parliament, whatever their judicial
emergency powers.
Right, the emergency powers. So they now have their own version. They have a souped up version of the their own Patriot Act is just going to be there forever and ever and ever, ever. That stuff's never going away in Canada. There's no way they'll relinquish that power.
I mean, it's literally from Star Wars. Like, I promise that the power granted to me, I will give back when this crisis is over.
Yep. Not going to happen, dude. game over. It's not happening. So that's
unlimited power.
Let me ask you a question, and I just want to know your quick thoughts on this because I don't have the answer and I don't care to talk about it.
I will give you my slow thoughts on this.
But or if you have a slow thought on it, that's fine too. So like when they were canceling and freezing accounts, they actually started freezing some type of cryptocurrency accounts up there too. Like you weren't able, or they attempted to. I don't know if they were successful at that, but my understanding was you can't do that with cryptocurrency. But I don't see why the government
wasn't that supposed to be one of the selling points?
Yes, but I don't see why the government can't stop that. Like if it's tied to a financial institution, why? Here's my
there can legally or can in practice.
Okay, I mean in practice. I don't ever say the government can or can't do anything legally because
they'll just make up whatever they.
Yeah, that's not a line they care about. They are physically able to stop cryptocurrency transactions. I think that's true. Now, maybe it's not true. Now, maybe it's only true insofar as you're tied into a fiat currency kind of banking system, financial institution, or a Federal Reserve type setup. So like maybe cryptocurrency peer-to-peer. Like if I was going to send you money, you and I could do it all day long and you could never, ever, ever, ever stop that. But like the friction point at the moment. It's
like, it's, what was the one that came after Napster? Kazaa. Remember
something like that? Yeah.
After Napster got shut down because it was centralized, there was all these peer-to-peer networks and like torrents.
Is that like LimeWire?
LimeWire, that was the big one. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, that worked out super well. But
everybody getting viruses on their Windows.
Ooh, the Pearl Jam discography, and all my money's gone.
I just downloaded every Metallica song that existed. I remember one time Jeremy and I had so much crap that we had isolated. There was this one CD that we had burned of like cracked software that we were like, all right, this CD is death. So we literally he drew like a skull and crossbones on this CD. So we just kind of held on to it like it was like a doomsday device that if we ever needed to just like totally foobar somebody's computer, we were just like,
That's great.
I'm sure Jeremy still has that.
I have no direct knowledge or understanding so much on this, but I was just thinking out loud and I was trying to read, and I haven't had time to research it. So like, but they did shut down some crypto wallets, or they tried to, and then like, so that's the whole point. So how do you, if it is true that cryptocurrencies can't be manipulated and shut down by the government on like a peer-to-peer kind of thing, which I think is true, but like that's where they're going to stop it. They're never going to let it go mainstream, because if it goes mainstream that way, they've lost all control of currency. They've lost like the ability to shut down somebody's bank account and their financial life is a huge power. So they're never going to give that shit up. I mean, there's no way. There's just no way. In fact, if anything, this kind of stuff with like the crowdsourcing websites and all that stuff, they're going to start manipulating those and controlling those harder.
Yeah, they shut down their GoFundMe, right?
Yeah, they did.
No.
Yeah,
or was it GoFundMe that did that?
I don't know if it was. I think it was at the behest of the government, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it was GoFundMe that all the money that was donated, they were like, actually, we're going to send that to different. Could you imagine if they did that like 2 years ago?
Yeah, but like, I mean, but they did do it like 2 years ago. They did it with Kyle Rittenhouse's stuff. Like there was a huge GoFundMe for Kyle Rittenhouse's defense. And I think they just did that on their own. They just shut that stuff down. And obviously he was found not guilty. So how stupid did they look? But yeah. Either way, those just my quick thoughts on that. I don't really know the answer to that. It's something I want to find out a little bit more, because like I'm super interested in cryptocurrency. I just don't, and I'm all for it. I think decentralizing.
I have contemplated
great
it.
Idea. I don't jump into it. I'm certainly not I'm not going to invest in it. That's not a thing. I looked at it a little bit. I was like, that is too much time and too much money and too much risk for me to even think about.
Yeah, I've thought about like at some point this year, if I'm having a good month, just like take $1,000 and just like get some Bitcoin and just let it sit and just see what happens.
But I would love to take $1,000, put it in Bitcoin, and then start transacting in it where I can, if that makes sense. I'd rather just be a participant in the economy. I think that's cool. I would rather do that. I don't care to make money off it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm for it in principle. So like, if I could start doing stuff in Amazon, I don't do that much online transacting. Like pay my water bill in Bitcoin. I don't know. That seems silly, but I mean, that's the thing. Like, eventually, that's the idea, is that it replaces your currency. But if the government could just jump in at some point,
Yeah,
and
I
stop
mean
that,
that's
then-
going to happen. I mean, they're already talking about trying to tax it,
right?
right?
And they're already
they-
trying to come up with their own decentralized, or not decentralized, but they're like, what's it called? Oh, good lord, what's the Federal Reserve? It's a central bank decentralized currency. Basically, every government trying to come up with their own Bitcoin, their own blockchain kind of thing. Which would you, if the government has any hand in the blockchain,
that's
defeats the
basically
purpose.
just virtual dollars.
It's basically what we have now. It's
Yeah,
fiat
like
currency.
most people. I mean, I don't have cash. I think I probably have maybe $100 in cash somewhere around in my house.
Well, yeah, and then what's in the bank isn't actually technically cash. It's just money.
Yeah, it's not. It's not in the bank.
It's sort of floating around there somewhere, but it's not exactly
Well,
there.
every dollar that you have in the bank exists in 5 different places. It exists
sure.
in the loan that gave to that person, and the loan they gave to that person, and they just
Right.
hope to Vishnu that all those people don't rush the bank at once.
Well, that's the purpose of That's what runs. That's the scariness of the run on the bank.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have your money. Jim's farm over there. Mike's bakery.
Are you Jimmy Stewart now?
I'm having a
You're
stroke
nothing but a
over
crook,
here.
That's one of my favorite all-time Saturday Night Live skits where they did the alternate ending to "It's a Wonderful Life." Did you see that one?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like Bill Shatner and anyway. Go.
Yeah. One of my favorite traditions, and I don't get to do it every year, is to watch "It's a Wonderful Life" with my mom because she loves it and I hate it, and so does my stepdad, my dad. So we just watch it and we make fun of it mercilessly as we watch it, and my mom laughs, but she's mad as she's laughing. She's like, "That's not funny. That's okay. That's funny. Oh, no, that's not funny. Yeah, it's okay. That's funny."
You're like, what kind of commie propaganda is this?
Yeah, but either way, I just found that interesting, and it's more something I want to research a little bit more. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, they do want to tax it and they do want to regulate it. I think in the Build Back Better thing, there was a large regulation about cryptocurrencies and stuff like that in the U.S.
Oh, what a
that
surprise.
nobody read or understands, and obviously has nothing to do with Build Back Better in terms of philosophy. But that's what these giant ass bills do. They just throw everything you can in there.
Yeah. Omnibus.
Yes. These douchebags. Well. Okay. You think Russia's has Russia invaded yet? What's going on? Are they going into the Ukraine?
You don't say Ukraine weak.
Ukraine not weak.
Talk about a slippery slope there.
So this is interesting because like I kept hearing that like shots had been fired, but I guess it was proverbial shots because like Putin just acknowledged some separatists or something to like, yeah, that region, we acknowledge their not Ukraine-ness. And everyone's like, well, that's it. He's going in. He said something. He's going to war. I was like, interesting. I don't
Wars
know.
have been started over less.
The United States says a lot of dumb shit. Okay, then we generally do go to war. So, whatever. I guess that's probably true. So, I don't know. Poor
Did we talk
Ukraine.
about? I don't want to get into a whole thing we've already talked about. The whole thing where I got it. I found this really interesting video about how the winner of climate change is going to be Russia.
No. Oh, yes. Yeah. Just because
like, the thing is, like, as the sea level rises and the temperature warms, the general productivity zone latitudes gradually go up, and so they're all this previously unused Russia. They're playing a
which
long
is
game.
probably just completely just deposited with natural resources.
Oh yeah, there's so much lithium and ore and
Oh, yeah.
uranium and all kinds of crap, and
Yep.
and so there's arable farmland,
Yep.
and then like usable seaports, all where it's all frozen. Like
Oh yeah, good point. That's
I don't
right.
know. I don't want to claim that Russia is that organized, but somebody over there is thinking about that. They're like, in next 50 years will be greatest Russian epoch ever. You know, they're like,
Well, yeah, but like for sure, that's like one of those infuriating things in the discussion of climate change and global warming. Be like the positive effects of a warmer climate, which generally, how many people like? Would you rather live in the warm or the cold? Everyone's like, oh, I'd rather live in the warm. I'd rather be 70 degrees and nice all year round.
and Russia's fine with that because they're the largest exporter of natural gas in the region. So they're like, yes, burn all fossil fuels is great.
We send you. Yeah. Well, that's honestly, that's the biggest deal about Ukraine. Like all those pipelines go right through there, man.
Yeah.
So it's a problem for Europe. It really is. And it's a problem for the United States too, because energy costs are going to still go up, whatever happens over there. And any saber rattling is bad. Just
nuclear power.
Oh yeah. Well,
is the solution to all
we're already
this.
40 freaking years behind the ball on that without.
Well, if we were energy independent, which we easily could be with nuclear power, and then all of the other developed nations the engineering capacity of Germany alone, right? If everybody had their own nuclear plant, then they wouldn't need to depend on Russia's natural gas resources.
Yeah. And you wouldn't need to burn.
We wouldn't need all the Middle East. All the Granted, you can't run cars off nuclear power, right? But
sure.
So that's right.
Yeah. No, you would greatly reduce all that stuff. Well, yeah. Well, not petroleum, but yeah, all the other ones, coal and natural gas and all that stuff.
Wasn't there a James Bond movie about this? It was one of those where there was the villain's plan was some sort of natural gas pipeline going through Russia. It was the one where Denise Richards played a nuclear physicist, and her name was Christmas.
Completely believable. It was the Pierce Brosnan era, right?
Yeah, it was late 90s.
Yeah. If it wasn't GoldenEye, I don't really remember it.
GoldenEye is very good.
The game's amazing. Honestly, that's probably the only reason it's very endeared to me, which is not a fair.
As a movie,
it's not a fair shake for Bond movies.
Well, the guy who made GoldenEye was the same guy who made Casino Royale, so he made both reboots. Like he did one, and then it went off the rails in a few movies, and then they brought him back to do the other one, the first Daniel Craig movie, and then that went off the rails in a few movies.
Sure.
But those are two.
Is that how it went down? Not every I've heard a lot of people really liked all the Daniel Craig ones, or maybe more than not. Maybe not all.
Quantum of Solace was like the storyline was okay, but it was just incompetently made. Like the editing was crazy. It was really Skyfall was really good.
All right,
and then Spectre after that. The problem is we have to go a whole deep dive on James Bond movies, but like to make a good James Bond movie, it has to be like the story has to make sense, right? Because when you're talking about like a globe-trotting adventure, there's all these things that you got to have.
That was probably me.
Oh, you're talking about like you have to have a plot that makes sense. Like the villain has some sort of elaborate plan. It needs to kind of like have a flow chart, right? But then it also has to be made on a technical level, right? Like the action scenes need to be cool. You got to have some good acting, right? Like so, it's rare that a Bond movie has both. Like Spectre looked good, but it was really stupid. Right, Casino Royale was well made and was smart, so that's why it's really good. So
So let me ask you, and I'm not a Bond aficionado by any stretch
Neither
of
am I.
imagination. Are there, in your opinion, or do you feel like there could be the older Bond films that fit that criteria? Granted, they're made in
for their time. I mean, From Russia with
Yes.
Love is like that was the second one they made. That one's held up pretty. Goldfinger is kind of the one where a lot of like the classic tropes were established.
Well, yeah, classic tropes.
I don't think I've seen them all.
Well, I certainly haven't. I'm just wondering if if it's like a nostalgia thing, or it's like Jaws that's actually good.
Yeah, Jaws still holds up.
Stories, right? Or is it just like, oh, this is the best of the Bond movies, and I like that thing?
Yeah, I don't.
Sean Connery's awesome.
Yeah,
like in your head.
It's hard to say. I think some of the like Dr. No from Russia with a Golf. Some of the ones that get mentioned a lot are probably they still hold up pretty well as far as being smart stories. I still think GoldenEye is one of the best of the whole series.
I like that movie a lot.
The story is tight. It has a beginning, middle, and an end. And it's well made. The action scenes are fun. It leans into the campiness of it, but without going. It was the first one to be made in the post-Cold War, so there was that whole angle. And Sean Bean is in there, and he dies. So,
damn Russians, man! Still the Russians. 1980s called. We want our foreign policy back. Here we are.
But see, in the 90s, the villains were always rogue Russians.
Yes, right. It's just true. Yes.
Right.
Russian
so you got
separatists.
Yeah, hardliners. They would say. So you like the Air Force One. It was Rogue Russian, Crimson
right.
Tide. The bad guys are Russian rebels. So you can still
Was-
have Russian bad guys. It just has to be like military rebels taking over something.
What was the Jack Ryan movie that was supposed to be terrorists that blew up the Super Bowl? Were they Russians or Germans?
Some of All Fears.
Some of All Fears.
In
Were
the
they
book,
Russians
it
or
was
Germans?
Arabs,
Yeah, right.
but then they changed it to neo Nazis.
As neo Nazis. Damn. Well, that was some foreshadowing, right there. The neo Nazis. They've come back with a vengeance as well.
Did you hear about the Red Dawn remake?
The one that's happened, or is there another one happening?
No, but there was the one that they made. Right, I never even watched it. It had a Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, it was like
they made it in like
Crimson-
2008 or 9 before he was like a big star.
Yeah.
And they made it, and the Chinese were the bad guys, and then it got shelved, and then it sat on the shelf for like 3 years. And then when Chris Hemsworth became a big star, they're like, "Ooh, we got to put this out." So they digitally changed all the flags to like North Korea.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Well, you gotta sell that movie in China if you want to.
Right. So I've never seen it. I just heard that's what happened.
That's funny, isn't it? I think that's true. Then they do some of that, or that's the rumors with the new Top Gun. They've edited a lot of the. There was like some pro Hong Kong stuff in there or something, or
Oh, you can't have that.
yeah, you can't have that. Not if you want to. Not if you want to make any money making movies. Not these days, anyway.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
I don't know. I'm not gonna not play NBA games in China. Come on, man. That's the moneymaker right there. It's the biggest market in the world. You gotta tap it. Hey, it's been an hour.
All right.
That was a good riff on stuff I had no idea we were gonna talk about.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch that podcast though all the way through. That's really funny. Me and my buddy were talking about a lot of that stuff. We joked about mis and disinformation and not knowing what it was, and then we were talking shit about Obama and the NDA, all in the same conversation like 4 days ago.
Yeah.
So you literally
It's
just brought up stuff I was talking about and didn't like really have a lot to say at the moment. But
Sometimes I literally have a shirt that it's like, boy, do I hate being right all the time. You know, I never wear it because I don't want to be that dude like out in public, but I just like that I have that shirt because like I don't want to be correct about this stuff. I would love it if it was actually true that I was just some crazy person. Like, oh, Dan's on his rant again. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like it's right here on the government's website.
yeah,
You know, like,
it's
I
crazy,
don't
man.
want this to be true.
It is on the Cybersecurity Infrastructure and Security Agency.
Yeah.
CISA.gov, MDM.
/MDM. Right.
It's going to go in the
it's
show
all right
notes.
there.
Wait, we don't have show notes, but it
No.
could be. Wait.
You can look it up, Dave. It's all right there on the government's website.
Nope. Here we go. Wait. There it is.
Nailed it.
Ooh. Technology.
Pull that shit up, Jamie.
Yeah, pull that shit up, Jammer. Did you have you watched any of the Rogan stuff since the controversy?
Some of it. He had a guy
There's
on.
been-
They had the 1-2 punch of the climate scientists guys come on. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was annoying. That seemed a little too like Hannity and Combs to me. Like the second guy he brought on was a total turd.
Yeah, that guy was not a good guest.
Yeah, it was.
He did not have the charisma to hold a 2-hour podcast.
No, maybe that was
His
it.
whole thing was actually, you know.
Right. And then he brought back on the Osterholm guy, which is actually a pretty reasonable dude. More of a COVID hawk than not, but like not like a crazy psychopath. So like
I
he was
didn't
like
see
one of the
that
first.
one.
Yeah, he was like one of the first dudes he brought on right at the beginning of the pandemic and like scared the living shit out of everybody.
Oh wait,
You know what
I
I
think
mean?
I did watch some of that.
Yeah, that was pretty good. But then the gosh, I don't know the guy's name. Is like Maj something. I'm gonna butcher the guy's name. Watch that one. Damn it, where is it? I'll tell you in 1 second. Either way, there's been a couple of them that have been pretty solid since the stuff, since the controversies. Let me find it real quick. Oh yeah, man. Majid Nawaz. I'm not saying that guy's name right. I know I'm not, and I can't even tell you how he'd say it. But that dude's awesome. He's a former like Muslim extremist that's kind of turned more moderate Muslim and like
I heard about that. Is that interesting?
yeah. Yes, it's very interesting. I think
Okay, I'm gonna check it
you'll
out.
you'll like that one. There's a lot of ties to like media manipulation and control and like governments lying and all sorts of crazy stuff that basically like all comes out of like out of the post-terrorism age. So this
Yeah.
guy's uniquely qualified to speak to that since he went to jail during the terrorism phase as a terrorist. So
Yeah.
like, yeah.
That reminds me of like it was some fake ad on like a Saturday Night Live skit or whatever. And it was like Chris Parnell like plays some horrible doctor. It's like, it takes someone who was sued for wrongful death to sue for wrongful death. Call me.
Dr. Spacemi. Specimen.
Spaceman.
Specimen.
Dr. Spaceman.
Dr. Spaceman. He plays that specific character in a lot of his characters, which is pretty good.
Tracy, I want you to call Dr. Spaceman.
Spaceman. That's right. Oh, poor Alec Baldwin. All right.
Yeah.
I could spin off into that for a while, but it's time to go to bed.
All right.
All right, man. Alrighty. Good night.
Right.
Wait, no, where'd it go? There's the
Twelve of the
man.
modern
There we
toy.
Since I deleted all these extra stuff on here, and it's
A
hard for me
plus
to find
level
where we
production
were.
quality.
It really is. We got to get our own. We got to get our own StreamYard stream here and organize this thing a little better. That's my excuse.
Or do we?
No, probably not. We can just keep mooching out the free one, but whatever.
That's the American way.
Okay.